My name is Guanxi. I'm a China business coach, trainer, and advisor, but more importantly, I'm an ABC. That's American-born Chinese. There's been a couple days break between the last time we spoke, but your mom and I were in a car accident. At the intersection between America and China, I'm concerned about the lack of cultural awareness on both sides. So I started having conversations with my unborn son. I want to try to explain our world in context in order for him to make better sense of his world. And I want him to develop a healthier attitude, mindset, and approach towards anyone from a different culture. I want to contrast this because your mom and I in Shanghai, we had a very similar accident, which means that it wasn't our fault. We were obeying the traffic laws and somebody hit us. Welcome to Season 2 of Generational ABC Podcast, another series of conversations between me and my unborn son, one ABC to another. In China, there's more of a haggling culture, which means that Chinese people believe consciously or subconsciously that they can get a better deal by talking directly with the other party and haggling. Hey, little buddy. This is your father again. There's been a couple days break between the last time we spoke, but your mom and I were in a car accident. Okay. Fortunately, there were no injuries, but obviously it was quite traumatic because the car had to be towed, and we were going to lunch, but on that day, we were getting ready to go to the doctor's office to actually do some ultrasound scans. So we took a Lyft or an Uber directly to the clinic or the doctor's office afterwards, and fortunately, everything is okay. So you are healthy, your mom is healthy, I'm healthy, but anytime you have an accident, there's a lot of things that you have to deal with. So I guess in this message, I'm going to talk about a little bit some of the differences. Your father, I was making a left turn on a green light, and the lady that hit us wasn't paying attention. So she drove straight through the red light, no change in speed, no change in direction, and just hit straight. Fortunately, I stopped and she just hit the driver's side front tire, so it didn't impact where I was sitting. But the car was not drivable, so we had to deal with a lot of paperwork. So I want to contrast this because your mom and I in Shanghai, we had a very similar accident, which means that it wasn't our fault. We were obeying the traffic laws and somebody hit us. So the experiences actually show a lot of the differences between America and China, at least in the current state. Now, things may be different in 10 years, but currently there's a trend, and it came from a place where it's completely different than what it would be in America, but gradually it's getting closer and closer, which means it's moving more towards a global standard. So what am I talking about? So as soon as the accident occurred, both the other person and us, we stopped, we didn't get out of our cars, and I immediately dialed 911, but we were fortunate there was a traffic officer very close by. So immediately police officers came. There was a fire truck that blocked off the intersection so we could get out of the way, and there were at least I would say at least 4 or 5 emergency response people on the scene, taking information from witnesses, taking our statements and our information. The officer basically said, here's your case number or CR number. You need to call me to find out where your car is being towed to. So the difference in the experience is basically, other than asking the other side, was anybody injured? And of course, they came over and asked us, was anybody injured? There was almost no interaction between us and the driver that hit us. So all of our conversations were basically with the police officer who came on the scene, and everything was taken care of by insurance. So in this case, because the other side assumed full liability, everything was taken care of by their insurance. So within, I would say, hours, the other insurance company gave us a call. They said, we're going to assume full liability for this accident. Do you need a car? Was anybody injured? What is the next step? And I just want to contrast this with kind of what happened in China. So and this illustrates a dramatic difference in cultures between America and China, because in China they have what's called a haggling culture. Okay, haggling in Chinese, which you'll probably understand, is 讨价还价. Okay, so whenever you have an accident in China, especially if you're not in a major city, generally what happens is the people who are in the accident try to resolve it between themselves. They don't want to go to insurance. They don't want to get police involved. And if there's a dispute over whose fault it was, which generally there would be, a lot of times it can actually get into an argument. And that illustrates kind of the haggling culture in China, where people just try to resolve things amongst themselves and on their own. But in America, or here in the US, we generally leave those things to the institutions and the legal authorities, and we don't want to get involved with the details. So even the person who hit us, it was their fault, but they don't need to make any excuses. They don't need to say anything. They can just take full responsibility. Basically, it was obvious that the other driver ran a traffic light, hit us. So basically, she just admitted to the officer, yes, I wasn't paying attention. I ran the red light. I hit the other person. And then it was a very easy case. Now, obviously not every case is that easy. But in this case, I was in a rental car that was paid by her insurance, just later on in the afternoon. All right. And so we're still in a rental car now, but it was really resolved without any discussion or any interaction between me and the other party. Now in China, it doesn't quite work that way most of the time. Now that's obviously something that's trending. So probably by the time you are old enough to drive, which if the legal age is still 16, will be 16 years from now, China will probably by then be on more of the same standard as it is now in the United States. But there's always going to be undercurrents of traditional Chinese culture that don't change. And the undercurrent in this example of what happened to us this weekend is that in China there's more of a haggling culture, which means that Chinese people believe consciously or subconsciously that they can get a better deal by talking directly with the other party and haggling. That's just part of the culture. And you're going to find a lot of that in your communications, in your negotiations, in anything that affects somebody's benefit. There's going to be haggling. Okay? Now, obviously there's haggling here in America too, but we just refer more as negotiations when it's appropriate to negotiate. And if it shouldn't involve negotiations because something is already in the contract, then it doesn't get into negotiations or haggling. But that's the major difference. In Chinese culture, even after the contract is signed, Chinese people feel there's still room for negotiations, and they will have a tendency to haggle. And what you're able to accomplish via haggling or negotiations a lot of times depends on the level of Guanxi that you have with the other side. And that way of interacting and communicating and achieving outcomes is obviously one of the big differences between a more traditional Chinese culture and a more traditional American culture. And the thing that we want to keep in mind is how China is trending. So at the time that we're recording this video, 2019, I would say haggling culture is still very much part of Chinese everyday culture and business culture. It is trending away from that, which is it's becoming more rules and institutions and law based, but it's not there yet. Before you could almost, just even 5-10 years ago, you could probably violate any law where somebody wasn't seriously injured or killed, and you could get out of it if you were able to haggle and you had the right relationships. Okay, just generically speaking. That is probably getting harder and harder because China is moving more and more towards a global standard. Okay, so the good news is this giving me a topic to talk about. We're in a rental car now, so it's been a little bit of a hassle and distraction to have to deal with, call the insurance companies, go to the impound lot, sign a release so the other insurance company could actually start the repairs. But it really, I just wanted to take this example to illustrate another difference between US culture and American culture. And it'll actually be very interesting when you are able to drive how China has continued to trend away from the haggling culture and where they might be in 16 years. All right, so this is your father again, signing out. Again, talking to you is always a joy, and I look forward to everything that's coming up in the future. Listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts,